Okay, we're going to reconvene into open session and turn this down. That's better. Okay. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Trustee Durkee? Here. Trustee Hansen? Here. Trustee Mayo? Here. Trustee Lawrence is here, I was going to say. We just beat him to the podium. I am Trustee Mason, and I will ask you now to all, and excuse me, we have our trustee for the night, Lauren Katz, correct? Okay, from College Park. So if you will now join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Give the report out of our closed session. Item 7.1, confidential student matters pursuant to the Ed Code 35145.5. We had received information, and that was all we did on that item. 7.2, expulsion of student 07-18 from all regular schools in Mount W Unified School District.
Madam President, I move that the board expel students 7-18 from all schools of the Mount Diablo Unified School District, and that students 7-18 may apply for readmission after June 29th, 2018. Prior to readmission, the student must participate in 20 hours of individual counseling to address anger management, participate in 30 hours of community service, attend the Mount Diablo Unified School District Saturday Workshop for Anger Management, participate in California Offender Program Services called COPS for anger management, show evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infraction, and maintain a 2.0 GPA and have a 90% attendance rate.
Second. Okay. For some reason, I do not have the join meeting. I'm on join meeting, but I'm not getting the right screen. That passes 5-0. 3.3, school student 08-18 from all regular schools.
Madam President, I move to approve that student 08-18 be expelled from all schools of Mount Diablo Unified School District, and that student 08-18 may apply for readmission after Friday, June 29, 2018. Prior to readmission, student 08-18 must participate in 20 hours of individual counseling to address appropriate behavior and anger management, attend Mount W Unified School District Saturday Workshop for appropriate behavior and anger management, participate in California Offender Program Services for anger management, show evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infractions, earn 30 credits, and have a 90% attendance rate.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. That's passes 4-1-0. And now we have expulsion of student 09-18.
Madam President, I move that the board expel student 9-18, that suspension be suspended, that expulsion be suspended, thank you. Student 9-18 would be subject to a rehabilitation plan, which would include participation in 20 hours of individual counseling services, complete 30 hours of community service, including participation in the California Offenders Program services for drugs and alcohol, evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infractions or 30 credits, have a 90% attendance rate, and that student 9-18 would be subject to placement by the superintendent and staff.
Second. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I will be voting no on this particular item because I do not agree with the second part of the motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, do you mind reading the motion to make sure I captured the spirit of it?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that passes 3-2. All right. On 7.5, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee pursuant to Government Code 54957B1, the board received information on 7.6, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code 549569B, we received information, and on 3.7, district reorganization, the board received information, which brings us to public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District that is not on this agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. If there are multiple speakers on any one subject, the public comment period may be moved to the end of the meeting. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board can do 3 things during public comment. We can ask a clarifying question, we can refer you to a staff member, or we can put your item on a future agenda. We just can't address it at the time you're sharing it with us because it has not been posted for the public to know we'd be discussing that. Having said that, we will start with our public comment. First is Tara Bazin.
Hi, I'm a member of the Holbrook Heights community. We're an HOA community with private. I don't know how to do it. That doesn't sound any different. But yeah, we're a private community. And okay. And within our community resides Holbrook Elementary. So when it was originally opened, it included all of our neighborhood as part of the Holbrook Elementary because it's within our school. But now that it's been reopened, our neighborhood has been cut in half, ultimately making it so that not all of our children get to stay together. And so I'm here to figure out what needs to happen to reunite our community.
And as I stated, we can't openly discuss it tonight, but staff has heard your concern and I'm confident someone will be getting in touch with you.
Okay, and I'd like to add that it's not just a matter of an intra-district transfer because that's a lottery system and that's not a guarantee. And Holbrook is a unique circumstance in which they have a dual immersion program. So the kids have to get entered in kindergarten in order to be part of that program. So if they get accepted in the 3rd grade, they're already at a loss for that experience. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Sarah Zaccoli?
My name is Sarah Zaccoli, and I am the president of the Mount Diablo Council of PTAs. I just wanted to inform the board that the PTA has extended its due date for high school scholarships. So you still have time. You have until February 5th. They have to be in by that date. There will be no extensions because we've already extended it as far as possible. We have, okay, so the requirements for award of scholarship is a GPA above a 2.0. They have to be a member in good standing at their PTSA. Currently, there are 2 PTSAs in Mount Diablo, and that would be College Park and Ignacio Valley High. The scholarship will focus on the categories of school volunteering, community service, personal challenge, and exemplification of PTA values. Again, those are due on February 5th for those 2 locations. Also available for scholarship would be at the state level. There is, by the way, they have up to 4 $500 scholarships they give out. And that's presented at Founders Day on February 27th. State scholarships, they have a volunteer service scholarship for $750 and a Ralph E. White graduating senior scholarship for those pursuing a career in the medical field. So the district scholarships can be found at 32ndpta.org. That's 32ndpta.org.
And what year can apply for those?
Seniors. Thank you.
And thank you for coming down and sharing that, especially with our students right behind you. George Fulmore?
Thank you, Superintendent, Board, staff, general public. Just first, just a quickie on the font of the agenda. I believe it's shrunk, and as a senior, I much prefer a little bigger font with some ink on it. We're using 2 pages up, and obviously got some room, but this is pretty tiny. So. Moving on, I'll bring up the achievement gap, which isn't talked about much here. I got a list of reasons why that may be, but you know, it does boil down to real estate too. Obviously, the people that own homes in near the good schools, they're happy and they want to keep that rolling. So let's keep them happy. Let's keep that rolling. You know, the achievement gap is all about raising the scores for the other schools so that the gap isn't so wide. I'm not one that believes that how you test in 2nd, 4th, 6th, 10th grade determines what you do the rest of your life. So let's not take this so seriously. Let's realize that this testing thing is imperfect, but you know, we got to at least work on it. So really, I'm calling for the district to address the subject, put somebody in charge, come out with a paper or a plan, show that you care and are working on narrowing the achievement gap. You may be, but I think you need to demonstrate a little bit more. So what are some of the reasons? Well, you know, it's about poverty, poor nutrition, lack of medical care, minority parents, maybe culture has something to do with it, lower expectations. Standardized tests in English are meant to test kids that are in an English environment all day, all the time. So obviously, if you're not in that environment, you're not going to do as well pound for pound. But the one that interests me that I just heard lately is there are students that do relatively poor in standardized tests who may not see an adequate payoff for doing well. They could do better, but they just don't see why they need to do better. So maybe these kids are actually, their scores are misleading. They could do better. I don't know what's up with that, but that's something we'll look into. So achievement gap's a real thing. I'd love to see the district acknowledge that. Keep the parents that want to keep high real estate prices happy, but work on the other stuff. And the other thing is keep the transfer system in place. There are people, especially in the Monterey and Concord, parents, kids that do want to transfer and try other schools. Keep that going. I hate to see that limited. Doesn't seem right. So that's an important part of the how you address the Monument community and what's available there. Thank you.
Thank you. Willie Mims.
To the board, superintendent, president, members of the community, Willie Mims from the East County NAACP, and also a member of Pittsburgh Black Political Association. I saw you looking for me. I was hiding behind a bunch of people back there. The front row was taken. So let me say this. The last speaker mentioned the achievement gap. And want to know, how what kind of progress you made in terms of closing that gap between the subgroups. Well, one of the issues and concerns that I have is that when you look at the California State dashboard and you look at your suspension rate for the African American subgroup, specifically that subgroup, the suspension rate is 12.1. It's the highest in the whole school district itself. And so you look at this particular subgroup alone, and also when you look at the referrals, which we don't have access to those, but the suspension rate probably has a direct correlation to the achievement gap. And so perhaps if you find ways of as the state EDCO says, find alternative means to suspension, maybe that achievement gap for that particular subgroup, which is the lowest of them all, will start to close. And so just want to let you know this. And so I'm still concerned about what plans you have in place to address that suspension rate. I mean, I looked at your LCAP plan. It's somewhat superficial in terms of identifying or focusing attention on that particular subgroup. I know it's supposed to deal with all subgroups, but that subgroup has the highest suspension rate. And so something in your LCAP plan should address that problem. And if it's not in your plan, then it does not exist in the minds of the people. The other thing I wanted to say is that when I was here the last time, one of your schools came to do a report, and I noticed, and I forgot to mention it, that they used supplemental funds to support Common Core. Supplemental funds cannot be used to support Common Core. Governor Brown stopped. He unfunded Common Core. So when you're using supplemental funds, that's only designed for those three specific subgroups to support Common Core, you're using that money illegally. You should use your one-time discretionary funds that you get every year from the state. That's how you should use it. The other thing I want to say, let's see, I think that's it for now, but I'll be back.
Because the red light came on right when we finished. Thank you. Jerry Kilcourse? Hey, Jerry? You must have left, okay. That concludes our public comment. Recognitions and resolutions. We have a resolution tonight for African American History Month. And Mr. Mims, you should have just stayed.
May I hear the resolution?
Oh, you want to hear the resolution first?
I mean, a lot of
All right.
them.
Ms. Mayo will read it for us, thank you.
Yes. Perhaps somebody else has some. Madam President, I move that the board adopt Resolution 17/18-25, African American History Month. Whereas Americans of African descent helped develop our nation in countless ways, those recognized, unrecognized, and unrecorded, and whereas African American history reflects a determined spirit of perseverance and cultural pride in its struggle to equally share in the opportunities of a nation founded upon the principles of freedom and liberty for all people, and whereas the African American citizens have participated in every American effort to secure, protect, and maintain the essence and substance of American democracy, as reflected by the California Education Code Section 37221D, which establishes March 5th as Black American Day to commemorate the anniversary of the death of Crispus Attucks, the first African American martyr of the Boston Massacre. And whereas the California State Board of Education recognizes in its policy statement on multicultural education that each student needs an opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all people, to develop pride in his or her own identity and heritage, and to understand, respect, and accept the identity and heritage of others. And whereas the history and contributions of African American citizens have been consistently overlooked, misinterpreted, and undervalued in the curriculum of the public education institutions prior to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and whereas the History Social Science Framework for the California Public Schools, kindergarten through grade 12, states that the history curriculum of community, state, region, nation, and world must reflect the experiences of men and women and of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, and must be integrated at every level. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District proclaims the month of February as African American History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional materials.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second?
Now, would you like to speak, Mr. Mayor?
Of course.
Are you going to give us some history? I usually like it when you do.
A little bit. I wanted to say something. First of all, I stand in support of the resolution, and I want to commend the district for coming up with the one one from last year, somewhat similar. But I want to commend you for continuing to support African American History Month, even though I myself don't see African American history as 1 month, but 365 days a year. I would hope that I would hope to see full participation in this celebration by all schools within this district. The teachers and the administrators and everybody else must not be reluctant or afraid to teach students something about the role that Africans played in historical development of this country. One needs only to feel the soul upon which your feet rest to know that a man of African descent invented a shoe lacing machine, attaching the shoe to the sole. Before that, your hands had to do it. But when he invented that machine, it became an assembly line. So your shoe that you're resting on right now, and the man's name is Jan Metzenweiger. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but I don't know. But I wanted to say also that in terms of history, there was names. Like I mentioned them last year, the Statue of Freedom, the Statue of Liberty. African American is directly connected to those two statues. Also, in the Civil War, I'm talking to teachers now that you can direct the students to do some research on. There were three battles: the battle of New Market Heights, the battle of Fort Pillow, the battle of Milliken Den. The African American soldiers played an important, significant role in those battles, and that has been left out of the history books. The other thing, and lastly, I'll say this: civil rights during the '60s, African people in America were not protesting and marching for civil rights. They were marching for freedom. I don't think you will find a civil rights sign back there. You will see freedom signs because black people were not allowed to even walk in bathrooms or walk in restaurants and everything else was signed. So our freedom was at stake then. But the civil rights name has been co-opted from the freedom rights of the '60s. So I just want to make sure that we understand it was freedom rights versus what we have today as civil rights. And civil rights they can take from you, but freedom rights they cannot take from you because you come into the world. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now vote. Do we have a card?
I'll do it.
You gonna fill one up?
Yeah. George Fulmore, so really gets me all fired up, yeah. So, I think when we get these subjects, we have to look at the whole history of white privilege. It really starts in California with the Civil War, after the Civil War, not the Civil War, which is the Gold Rush. And, it really dominates then with a variety of people, primarily of European white extraction. And that starts the whole thing in California of white privilege. And it just has continued and continued. I grew up in Fresno, California, and for the benefit of a lot of young people, I lived in Fresno, and the railroad went kind of right through town. All the blacks, all the browns, all the Asians were across town. They couldn't come to our high school. They couldn't buy property in our areas. And, that's 60, 70 years ago. So, and I study Latin American history or Mexican history, and there was prejudice against Mexicans for years and years, just like blacks, for jobs. And even in World War II, at first they couldn't apply for any of the good jobs that were supporting the war effort. So, we just have to be conscious of how this developed after World War II. A lot of advantages to whites for housing, education, all those things that's only going back 50, 60 years. And so that's perpetuated too. So, we're in a transition where more and more of Californians across the country, are from other backgrounds. And we want to make this a smooth transition, and certainly education is a big part of it. So we want to do a good job in recognizing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I want to thank Mr. Fulmore for his comments. I too am a graduate from a high school in Fresno, but I do want to indicate that there were students of all colors and all races that attended my high school and graduated in my senior class. So thank you.
And that passes 5-0. Okay, now it's our highlight of the night, time for student reports, and we will let Lawrence start it off there. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of Superintendent's Council, and members of the audience. My name is Lauren Cates, and I'm the student representative from College Park High School. I am the treasurer of Class 2020 and representative for College Park High School. This week has been very hard for our school. As you may or may not have heard, a former College Park sophomore, Ryan Joseph, suffered from a C4 spine injury during a wrestling match and is paralyzed from the neck down. We are currently giving out information about the GoFundMe program, and we have been doing pretty well on it. Last Friday, the student body dressed up all in blue because it's his favorite color. We took a picture, and the leadership class is currently making a poster for it. And we're going to give it to the wrestling coach, and he's going to bring it to the hospital because he's not allowed any visitors at the moment. We are all hoping the best for him. Anyways, this week is Spirit Week. Today was Nike versus Adidas. Tuesday is Sports Team Day. Wednesday is Slopes Day, as in snow gear. Thursday is Sports Players Day. Freshmen are dressed up as soccer players. Sophomore is dressed up as football players. Juniors baseball, and seniors basketball. Friday is Purple Out, as well as our very first Winter Olympic rally. We are very excited. We have put a lot of work into it so far. We are very excited to see the outcome of that. The seniors have their senior lunch at Boomers on April 27th. The juniors and sophomores are meeting up with the prom planner on January 25th. Prom tickets for the juniors are on sale from February 5th through the 15th, and they're making a song request Google form, and we'll be sending it out soon. Sophomores have a Chipotle Razor on February 19th from 4 to 8. Please come, we really need the money. In downtown Pleasant Hill. Currently, we have a dance coming up on January the 27th, this Saturday. It's our winter dance. We have sold 201 tickets. This time we did our dance tickets a little differently. We raised the price the later the week went on, starting from $10 to $25. We have done a lot of community service so far. We adopted 2 families during December and did a huge canned food drive, which was very successful. At the moment, we are planning to collect empty water bottles after the dance, cash it in, and then donate to the homeless. We are having 2 lunchtime activities held in our gym, a 3-point shooter game and an obstacle course. Later, we have been getting together with our committees. We have 8 committees. We have a rally committee, community service, publicity/spirit, RTI, which is our study hall, staff awareness, student awareness, lunchtime, and special teams. College Park students have been going through a rough time, but we are all in it together, and we are trying to make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who's up next?
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of the Superintendent's Council, and members of the audience. My name is Nicole Teneo, and I am the ASB Vice President of Mount Diablo High School. In the month of December, our first semester had just recently ended. For this recent grading period, we had over 45% of our students on honor roll, with 614 students having a GPA of 3.0 or better. Next, during finals week, we held a dog stress relief event. Students came out during lunch in our quad and relieved their stress by seeing the service dogs who came to visit. Next up, we had our holidaygrams. So in celebration of the holiday season, we sold holidaygrams, and Santa passed them out the Friday before finals as a little treat for our exams. And then next up, since we held our Winter Spirit Week a little later after the holiday season, we held 2 special spirit days in honor of the festive season, Ugly Sweater Day and Santa Hat Day. We also held lunchtime activities in the quad during these days. Next, for the month of January, last Friday, we recently held our winter rally. The theme was Winter Wonderland, and was full of performances from the Flag Squad, Cheer, Illis Dance Crew, and Division. It also included fun rally games and acknowledgments for our winter sports athletes. And our Spirit Week included Tuesday, which was Couch and Knit, also wear bunny clothes. Wednesday, which was Winter Snow Gear. Thursday, which was Flannel Day, and Friday, which was Red and Green Extreme. And then also we have our Pennies for Patients fundraiser coming up within the leadership conference. And lastly, for the month of February, we will be hosting our next blood drive, which is coming up on the 1st of February. We are excited to see our students, teachers, and staff volunteer. And lastly, we have our Valentine's Day grants, which will begin to sell soon in honor of Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of Superintendent Council, and members of the audience. My name is Annalise Corona,
My name is Josimar.
and we are the student representatives from Gateway High School. Gateway has now become an independent study program. We're excited about the new program because we're growing stronger relationships with the teachers. We are also getting more opportunities for career and exploration, and a program called Bridge to Career in College, which will be held at Olympic. We have small classes on campus for math and science to give us extra help at school. We have several seniors who are graduating early, and Josimar is one of them.
Gateway also had our first multicultural day. Students did a PowerPoint on their background, some from Mexico, from West Africa, and Jamaica. A young sister from one of our students sang mariachi music for us, and she did a great job. We had a potluck that we really enjoyed, and all the food was great. Everyone had lots of fun. We also did our monthly awards where we ate pizza during lunch before our winter break. We're also looking forward to celebrating soon for our early graduates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Mason, members of the board, Superintendent Meyer, Superintendent's Council, and members of the audience. My name is Asim Yaya, and I am the ASB president from Concord High School.
And my name is Dalia Isa, and I'm the senior class president at Concord High School. Recently at Concord High, our Ladies First and show choirs have been getting ready for their tour in Seattle, which will take place from April 19th to the 22nd. Additionally, Ladies First is preparing for the District Festival, which will take place on February 7th, and they also attended a Young Women in Harmony workshop last Saturday. Our band is continuing to practice for their concerts in Seattle from April 19th to the 22nd as well. Our winter percussion, winter drum major, and winter guard is in full force, and they're getting ready for their competition season. Meanwhile, we had a music tech concert last week. Sorry. Cheer season is almost complete. Our cheer team is currently undefeated, ranking first in all of their competitions. As the national competition approaches, they're preparing to blow the judges away and defend their title as national champions for the second year in a row. Our Little Girl Big Dreams Club founded an 8-week SAT prep class for free to equalize educational opportunities on campus, and this Friday and Saturday, they will be going on a Feeding the Homeless trip in San Francisco. Our Model UN has a conference on Friday and Saturday in Santa Clara Valley.
All right, and now for our sports. This is always fun. Our winter sports started off well, but like they always do, they took a dip within the last few weeks. Our boys basketball squad is 5-12. They recently beat Mount Diablo 82-42. Their next game is tomorrow against Alhambra at home. Our girls basketball team is 3-14, and they lost to Clayton Valley. I'm just going to tell the truth. They lost to Clayton Valley 72-33, and their next game will be tomorrow against Miramonte. Our boys soccer squad they're going strong. They started off strong, they've continued. They are 9-3-2, and they recently lost to Acalanes 1-2, and they're playing Valley Christian tonight. Our girls soccer currently stands at 4-8-2, and they recently lost to Northgate 7-0. It should have been 6-0, but they scored a goal on their own goal. But hopefully they'll beat Berean Christian this Wednesday. And then our wrestling team has our first meet at our school this Wednesday as well.
As for our leadership activities, our winter rally went well, which was last Friday. Despite a few hiccups along the way, we were able to bring together a good event for our student body. We had performances from our award-winning band and Winter Guard, recognized our visual and performing arts seniors, and streamed our very first live feed on our projector, and even held a Rubik's Cube solving battle during the rally.
And then for some other leadership events that we're up to, most of these things I've mentioned in previous meetings, but just as a reminder, Leadership Exchange, since the beginning of our new semester, our classes began to plan the 10th Annual Leadership Exchange, which is on February 23rd. Leadership Exchange is an event Concord High hosts in February, in which we invite local high schools, and we promote the exchange of not only ideas, but also what it means to be a leader in our current political and social climate. We have reached out to 20 local high schools, many of which are sitting behind us, and we are waiting to finalize our attendance and hear from them. Our content and curriculum this year will be focused on having both confidence and pride in your program, community, and identity. So to promote the individual confidence, our speaker will be Kevin Lau. He's the only one-handed Division I athlete ever. He will be discussing how he dealt with his personal insecurity and how he utilized it to empower himself. So again, we invite you guys to attend. It is an amazing event since every leadership program from MUSD will be there, and then some outside of MUSD as well. Once again, the event will be from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. on February 23rd. We will be also holding a mini leadership exchange for local elementary schools on February 21st, and we're going to be basing the curriculum on character building more than leadership skills, because that's really what's crucial for them. And then for middle schools, we're planning our annual 8th grade day visit. This year, we want them to embrace their future as Minutemen and learn about our culture. So instead of just sending them through a series of lessons and conversations with students, they're going to participate in their own rally, which is going to be really exciting for them. And finally, 9 of our leadership students will be attending the annual Castle California Association of Student Leaders State Conference this April in Ontario, California. We are excited to interact with our fellow student leaders across the state and bring back a valuable perspective and some valuable ideas to our program. Thank you, and go Minutemen.
Good evening. Great. All right.
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of the Superintendent's Council, and members of the audience. My name is Jordan Slocum. I am a senior class officer.
My name is Kyle Hodgson. I'm ASB president.
And I'm Fabiola Donato, and I'm ASB treasurer.
Which school?
Oh, Ignacio Valley. I'm so sorry. I actually see a lot of my teachers here. My teachers. Okay. So first off, we have our winter rally, February 9th. We're gonna have superheroes versus villains, and we're gonna have the teachers be the superheroes and the students be the villains. So we have spirit days, but I forgot them, so that's kind of bad. Also, we have many fundraisers going on for our ASB class, including sweatshirts for the senior class, crew necks for the junior class or sophomore class, and then shirts for the freshmen.
Hold on. And we're also doing a basketball tournament for like our whole school. So it's basically like you can do how many teams is it? 10. So we're doing 10 teams, and each team has 4 players. So whoever wins gets a pizza party at the end. Yeah.
And then, like Concord said, we're going to Castle, so 12 people from our leadership class are going. And we're very excited. We can't wait to actually go learn more things. And we're also going to Disneyland, so that's fun. And then we had our first Warrior Appreciation Day, which is a day to honor the students that have worked hard to get their GPA up or have just worked hard to maintain their GPA. So, and then saying that, students over 3.0 GPA went up from 38% to 46%, so 8% from last year. And then D's and F's went down to 3.3%. And I feel like that's good.
We're also doing a leadership development day for all 8th graders. So basically today we're all like the 8th graders from like different schools come to our school, and we basically like teach them how to be leaders, like what like it is to be a leader, and everything from YV. So and that's kind of weird. Our soccer team's doing pretty good. Our basketball team's doing good. Lacrosse and softball is barely starting up, and we made a new thing called the Tribe Store. So we have these little tickets. It's kind of like money, but like for the school. And we have like cool things like pop sockets. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but I have like pop sockets. So for all the students that are doing good, they're in the Tribe tickets, and after getting like a certain amount, then you can go to the Tribe Store and like buy whatever you want.
So finals actually went very well. We actually enjoyed having them before break, and we actually do think it improved our test scores because we remembered everything. So yeah, we just wanted to say that. And then also prom is coming up, and we decided we're gonna have a classical masquerade, classic. Our hall is in San Francisco. It's very beautiful. I love it. And then the food is going to be good because I picked it. So.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah. Okay, so every year we kind of have like a leadership lockdown, and we're having another one. And pretty much leadership lockdown, we stay at school for about 10 hours, 12 hours. Oh Jesus. Okay, so we stay at school for about 12 hours with each other. So we're kind of like forced to get to know each other and like learn each other's habits and stuff, and we get to learn each other's, like if we have like certain personalities and who works well together. We had one in the beginning of the year, but now that the class is kind of different, we've added a few more students throughout the year. We get to have it again, kind of revamp it and see, what everybody has to bring to the table, and kind of just get everybody pumped up for the school year again, for the remainder of the school year. So yeah.
So that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of the Superintendent's Council, and members of the audience. My name is Itali Pinzon.
And my name is Elizabeth Garcia.
And we are the senior representatives of College Now program at DVC.
So we're finally back to take on our last semester. Today was our first day of our college courses for the spring semester. Now we go through the stress of adding and dropping classes. Our counselor is working with our homeschool counselor to help us work on applying for scholarships. We are also trying to work with schools to allow us to be able to participate more in like the high school spirit that they have over at the high schools. So we have been pretty successful so far. We've been allowing the seniors to attend the senior activities, but we are still working on them allowing us to attend the rallies, because we believe that, especially for seniors, we should be able to get that high school spirit. So we are still going to be doing Friday interventions for any of the students in the College Now program, for anyone who is struggling in either their high school block or the college courses.
And then, we are planning on participating on campus activities, and one of them would be Social Justice Week. We started to recruit sophomores and juniors for next year for College Now program. We had our first meeting on January 16th at Ignacio Valley. We are scheduled to have other meetings in March 5th at 6:30 p.m. in Ignacio Valley, March 8th also at 6:30 p.m. in the Willow Creek Center, and then March 12th also 6:30 p.m. in Mount Diablo High School. And then we're also planning on visiting every school so they can hear about our amazing program, because it really does and helped us. And then last but not least, we are trying to plan some senior activities for our first senior graduating class, as well as looking for fundraising opportunities. But since we are a small group, it does not come easy to us. So feel free to contact our counselor or any College Now staff of any ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Mason, board members, Superintendent Dr. Meyer, members of Superintendent's Council, and the members of the audience. My name is Casey Dillon, and I'm the ASB Vice President of Northgate High School.
My name is Marielle Padilla, and I'm the Senior Class Secretary/Treasurer.
And we're just going to be going over some current and future events we have planned at our school. So first off, this week we have a new Spirit Week. It's called New Year, New Dreams. And today was Mindfulness Monday. So basically what we did was we put a whole bunch of inspirational quotes and sayings all over school posters, and then we got Post-its and wrote it on them, wrote on the Post-its and put it on the lockers for the students to see. And then tomorrow is a meme dress-up day, which have been requested by a lot of our students, so that will be fun. And then on Wednesday, the title is like Sweet New Year, so what we're doing is in the forum at lunch, we're going to be having free cookie decorating, so everyone's going to come, we're going to decorate cookies. And then on Thursday is Throwback Thursday. And on this day, students can wear whatever favorite past Spirit Day they liked. So it's kind of like a free choice for all the students. And lastly, Friday is Fancy Friday. So everyone's going to dress nice in dresses and button-ups and all that. And then on February 1st to February 4th, our production workshop class are going to be having their one act. And these shows are usually amazing and everyone comes out and it's a great experience for them to watch. And then, this is something new we're doing this year. The freshmen are putting it on, and it's called the Life Size Game Night. So they're going to be doing like chess, but they're going to be using like real humans, and so it'll be fun to see how that turns out. We also have an Olympics week, and we did this for the first time last year, and it was a huge success. Like a lot of people came at lunch to watch. So what we're doing is at lunch, we do sports like volleyball, basketball, and we do like staff versus students. And everyone gathers in the gym with their lunch and we all watch and it's super fun. From February 5th to February 7th, we are going to be doing the campaign week for the next year's ASB. So that's exciting. And February 21st is Trevor Thompson Blanket Making Festival. And for those of you who don't know, Trevor Thompson was he was a sophomore, I think, and he died. He was born with heart defects, and around his 16th birthday, unfortunately, he passed away. And so to keep his legacy going on, his family does these things where every year we make tie-knot blankets and we donate them to children's hospitals. And we're going to be doing a Disney dress-up day for that day because he loved Disney. And then we are also having a multicultural week, and we begin auditions in February. But it's usually in March, and we just have a whole bunch of different cultural dances, audition, perform in a rally. And then our choir is every year they put on this big show called Musical America, and it goes on for 2 weekends, and I think they do about 7 shows total, and it's a huge success, and that's what's going on in our shows.
When it comes to our senior class, we have just finished planning our senior banquet, which is really exciting. Basically what we do at those events is we all gather around, and beforehand we ask almost all of the students to put in their, it's like a vote system, and you nominate people for best dressed or best hair, just qualities that are obviously there in our school. And it's just a fun activity that we put together, and it's a really good class bonding event. It's super successful in previous years, especially when we go and witness it and we see how together it really brings our class. It's a nice experience. And then also what's really exciting is we finish planning our senior ball. We finalized all the fine details, everything's planned out, and it's going to be at the California Academy of Sciences. It's a really big venue and it's really nice. There's a lot of things to do there. And then also, we're just starting our senior projects at Northgate High School, which is a big part of our second semester. And what's really great about that is it allows us to explore topics which we're interested in, or even if it's like career-wise or just simple interests, it allows us to go out there and engage with our community, which is a really nice experience. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. guys did a great job as usual. You're welcome to stay, but I can see you here to go home and do homework, so that's good too.
Thank you for your hard work at your schools.
Okay, so now it's time to go to the board member reports, which we're so lucky we get to follow the kids. You want to start out, Ms. Durkee?
Yeah, I'm going to be really brief tonight. I just want to share again that I try to keep my Facebook page that's specific to my role on the school board up to date on activities. So if you're just dying to know what I'm doing, you can always check that out. Just to attend the parent advisory committee meeting, which was excellent, and a chamber mixer, which was held at the Monument Crisis Center, which is always exciting to go visit. So I'll just leave it at that.
Trustee Hansen?
Follow her for a change and not feel underachieving. I went to the same event at the Monument Crisis Center with the chamber, and it's quite a representation of people who are very interested in our school district, I found out, and so it's a good thing. In a positive way, they had a lot of questions about what we're doing and interactions. And then I went to my favorite meeting of all time, which is always DLAC, our English Learner Advisory Committee. And you know what's impressive? I always say this every meeting and they try to get tired of me. The attendance was incredible that night, and I just noticed that it's growing in popularity, and I think it's because it's such a positive group. They actually accomplish things, and they actually have great ideas and participation. So I just wanted to give them a shout out that they filled the room the other night, which is hard to do with parents. So I appreciated that.
That's it. Trustee Neal?
Thank you very much. Regretfully, I was unable to attend the January 9th CAC meeting due to illness. I want to invite members of the public to the Contra Costa County School Boards Association meeting on January 30th, which will be a review of the governor's budget by CSBA staff. It begins at the County Office of Education at 6 p.m. with refreshments. Program starts at 7 and then concludes at 8:30. On January 19th, I did attend the Parent Advisory Committee meeting, which was well attended. We had a review of an overview by the Food Services Department new Director, Dominic, and he answered a lot of questions. What I think is important, and he mentioned this in particular, is that part of his role and all food services folks in our district is their efforts are about dispelling myths about food services. So I hope you'll check out our food service programs. And for those of you who keep track of these sort of things, Mount Diablo Unified School District's cheese zombies are still a hot item, and that pun is intended. And on January 31st, there will be a Budget Advisory Committee meeting at 5 p.m. here in this room. Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence?
So I wanted to start actually with following up on what Lauren had said about Ryan Joseph, the College Park wrestler, and the fact that he and his family have radically had their future altered. I'm impressed in the support that our community has shown. I think Principal Alvarez and Athletic Director Jim Cack have done a fantastic job of communicating and supporting the community. The GoFundMe page for Ryan, I looked, it's now over $138,000, but that amount is still, they're facing millions of dollars of medical bills, and so anyone who could help, I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated. I had an opportunity to attend the Northgate Listens program, which was put on by Northgate students and featured Assembly members Grayson and Baker. And I think the part that stood out for me was actually Laura Easton, who is a Northgate student who was the moderator. And she did a better job than a lot of professional moderators, and I thought often the questions were even better than the answers. So it was it was a packed event at the theater at Northgate, and the students did a fantastic job there. One thing that I have that touches on a couple of things that community members raised tonight. I had spoken last week to the superintendent. I have an interest in seeing presentations from some of our schools that are the lowest scoring on tests, to have them come and present to us. And I think it should be in the spirit of one, that there are a lot of myths around these schools and addressing some of the things they are doing. But at the same time, I think we need to be open and transparent about the challenges and what is working and what is not working. And so that is something I would like to see us do. And I think that that does impact some of the subgroups that are lower performing and have higher suspension rates as well. So I think there's a correlation there. And when people simply, something I've said is that if it was as simple as, oh, we need a different principal and a different set of teachers, then we'd swap them. But that's the socioeconomic issues and challenges at the schools are a much deeper part of the challenge. And then the last thing I'd like to raise is, as I understand it, so I think we received a lot of input from employee groups helping to shape the calendar, and I've heard good feedback that people do appreciate the fact that we've now laid out a calendar for 2 years. But to my understanding, I don't believe that there are any parents represented on that calendar committee. Dr. Meyer, could you confirm that?
Only the parents. I know that we have staff who are parents and we have teachers who are parents and other community members. To my knowledge, it consists of bargaining group representatives, staff, human resource staff, and school supervisory staff.
And so for me, I think that's an opportunity for us to better listen to our community, which would be to have parent representation as parents to help us hear their concerns and help shape the calendar in future years. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll be very brief as well. I spent Martin Luther King Day doing community service in my community. And then on Tuesday, I went to the Board of Supervisors meeting where the parents of one of our students, Phil Arnold, longtime student, and I think now has grandkids in our program, was honored as Humanitarian of the Year for the county. So I was glad to be there to support him. And I went to the Parent Advisory Committee and the DLAP Committee as well this month. So having said that, we will move to the superintendent's report.
Okay, in the spirit of brevity, I have a shorter presentation because I see these science folks just giving me the science eye. Wanted to share in our second meeting in January that we're thrilled to be back. I think that we finally are recovering from that lovely break in a good way. Here we have 3 members of Pine Hollow excited to be dressed up for a Friday. Wanted to share a couple of updates, some things that we're talking about and looking at. This is our 70th birthday, so I think that is the year of gold or cash. It's diamonds. But we are really proud of our 70 years. So we're looking at what we can do to commemorate that and to let others know and really to talk about our history and where we're going. So that's an exciting milestone. As mentioned, the governor's budget proposal, they estimated around 200 to 300 per pupil increase in funding with the January proposal. And so that could be up to 8 million, although whenever we get it back, it seems to go down. So I try and manage that hope. But we are glad that it didn't go down in the proposal, and it was, it's flat with some of our increased costs, but it is positive news. And our students, as we heard, are engaging in the second half of their year and really liked that break for the finals. Wanted to share our parent advisory, and here we have a picture of our parents who attend. And we had a great presentation from our food service director, Dominic Machi. And so he brought oranges, and he just did a fantastic job. His passion for the program and what he's doing and the myth busting I really look forward to the growth we're going to have in that department. So great presentation. Thank you to Jennifer Sachs, who coordinates this group. It's part of our LCAP outreach, and it has been very successful. As mentioned, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Day of Service, a lot of wonderful historic lessons we heard, and I appreciated hearing that it's not just a day, it's not just a month, it's part of our history, and it's part of every day and part of our history courses. We had activities around the district. In the top picture on the you can see students at Shore Acres. If you can see, they were working on a poem that Martin Luther King, reciting what his words and sharing that at a school presentation. And really, it's an opportunity to revisit the history of the civil rights movement and the freedom rights and the freedom riders and the freedom efforts. So I learned something tonight as a longtime history teacher, so thank you for that. Sharing also a little bit more about the governor's budget. LCFF, Local Control Funding Formula, was funded early, 2018, so we received all of the money that we were going to get in 2020, the governor's parting gift, if you will. So he put that money, we had that ahead of time. He's really tying up his legacy and projects. California is now funded at the 2008 level. We're still, according to different measures, 45th or 41st, depending on what you look at in the nation. And so the goal of the people running for governor are to be in the top 10. So if they can get close, they will get my vote. But I do appreciate the conversation that's going on, because being in the 40s is not where we want to be. We will see an increase, as mentioned. I used to hear this and go, quit talking about it, but we will see an increase in pension and reserve requirements. I used to think that was a ruse by those trying to take money out of my classroom or school, and to some degree there was a little bit of premature mourning, but we are kind of here now. So that is something that we're looking at with that increase in the requirements of our fiscally conservative governor. And we will see changes in the May revision, but they have shared with us that that this is, in the past, the proposal changed drastically, and currently we don't see too many changes from January to May. As mentioned by Lauren and board member Lawrence, at College Park, you see here a picture of Ryan Joseph, a wonderful young man, a sophomore, played lacrosse and wrestling. Last week there were many activities at the school. The parents have shared that through Mr. Keck, that I can share that they are planning to go to Denver because there's specific treatment there that they're hopeful about, and that they are seeing increased abilities to communicate. So they're very positive, and the young man has been inspirational in his attitude towards everything. And they're doing a video with Paul Renault, and so people can come and say things to Ryan, and he's watching it in his hospital room. I wanted to share that local newscaster Frank Somerville, y'all are from here, so you know him better than I, wrote a beautiful piece about the efforts around the community. We know that Sports Illustrated featured information about Ryan, and it's international, the story, New Zealand, other parts of the world. So we look forward to doing everything we can. And then there's the DLAC. Now, the photographer should probably be removed from her position as a photographer, but the nurse was so excited I couldn't get her to stand still. She was sharing with our parents, our English learner parents, about the new work that we've been doing in nursing, and we also had a presentation on nutrition. But very engaged, very positive meeting that fills the room, and a lot of different topics through the evening. There's been a shift in gender in the board of the DLAC. It was all females for many, many, many years. And there was a coup of sorts at the last meeting. And so it is all dads at this point, with the exception of one mom on the right, and Carmen, who leads it as well. Wanted to just say thank you to the board, and thank you to all of you. This is part of our principal group, our meetings that we have, and this is the YV. They meet in their feeder patterns, and there's the YV feeder pattern saying thank you to you. So thank you very much.
Okay, so now we are on the reports, high school next generation science standards. Dr. Meyer.
Yes, I know they're applauding. They're applauding my report. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce the high school science steering committee, and they will share information on their work. So we will start with Mike Jimenez, School Support High School.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Board President Mason, Board Trustees. In 2013, the State Board of Education adopted the Next Generation Science Standards as required by Education Code 60605.85. If you ask me to recite it, I can't. Dr. Meyer directed me to work with the steering committee to put together a rollout plan for the Next Generation Science Standards. And I've been working with the steering committee. To be honest with you, I'm just the facilitator. The real workers are behind me. The teachers, they're the experts in the field. They do fantastic work. So they're here to present their plan to you. Only several of them, not all.
Thank you for being here.
Hello, I'm Jan Robertson, and I'm the Science TOSA, and my job really is to roll out NGSS K-12, and I'm very happy to be here with this amazing team. We've been working together for 3-4 years and we have a great plan, and we want to share it with you. So, can you click to the next one? So there's our Hanson team, and what a showing we have tonight. We have teachers that represent each site from our comprehensive as well as some of our specialized high schools, and teachers that represent every content area. So it's really great, and this group's been working together for a couple of years, but again, it says a lot that they're willing to come out and support the three of us who will be presenting for you tonight. So as a district, our science teachers, with support from the district administration, we used a facilitated process to develop this plan, and we're providing a recommendation to you. We did provide a document that has really a lot more of the details. It's complicated, but we're hoping that you had a chance to read this, and if you have questions, this will certainly help. So what you hear about tonight is kind of how we got to where we're going, talk a little bit about the NGSS, as well as share an implementation timeline with you. Okay, next please. So what is the NGSS? Well, the NGSS is actually quite fabulous. As a science educator for, I think this is 40 years. It's almost scary to think about that. But this is the best plan that really presents something for students and children to learn about science. It's an equity program where science is, the motto kind of is science for all. And all students need to have plenty of science. And we are working K-12. But the biggest shift is the way that we're trying to teach science, because equity is an issue and some kids never are exposed to physics, for example. Well, I don't know why that is. It's sort of a historic thing, but our hope is that we will be using the science and engineering practices, the disciplinary core ideas, and concepts across, their cross-cutting concepts is sort of the trifecta. We call those, they're the 3 dimensions of the NGSS. So all our students will know what they are and they'll know how to operate in those, within them. So that's part of the work that we've been doing. We could spend, 4 years talking about the NGSS, but I won't bore you today. Next, so our team wrote this statement in 2015 when we came together in a K-12 group, and I'm just going to read it because I think it's really fabulous. So our science vision statement is as follows. Mount Diablo Unified School District will ensure that all students are provided with a rich science curriculum which embodies the core ideas of science and bridges science and engineering to guide all students as they become responsible global citizens. The curriculum will provide tools and critical thinking skills necessary to enable lifelong learning and to better adapt to the ever-changing world. And with that, I'm going to introduce Dylan Bland, who will talk to you about courses.
Okay, so Jan mentioned that our motto really guiding this was about all standards, all students, and the whole shift to NGSS, other than being something that California is doing, is to make science more accessible and increase science literacy to all students, not making it a roadblock as much as possible. And there's a big shift going back to the 3 dimensions here, that science sort of gets stuck with just the content, the top right of this. And that really limits the depth that we can go into with all of our students if we focus on rote memorization and just one dimension. So the shift to NGSS is an intentional one to increase our focus on problem solving and real world applications of science. And to do that, we propose doing this 3-course model. There is sort of a refocusing and repackaging of science standards. And the 3-course model contains 3 courses. The first one being the living Earth, formerly biology. The second one being chemistry in the Earth system. And the third one being physics in the universe. And these names are intentional to reflect that they are new courses and to show the inclusion of a 4th big category, which is Earth and space science. Hugely important to California. There's a big emphasis on earthquakes, plate tectonics, things that we can measure. Climate change is a big driving example in a lot of these courses. This 3-course model was adapted from the California framework, and the majority of California schools seem to be going in this 3-course direction. Locally, we have Acalanes moving in this direction, San Francisco Unified, Berkeley Unified, all are going toward this model here. And we recommend that in order to fulfill their science requirements, all freshmen would start off with this course, The Living Earth. The second one we have is Chemistry in the Earth System, which is using similar chemistry concepts that are there and introducing earth science phenomenon to drive that content. It's not stapling on earth science, making teachers teach more, making students more frustrated with science content. It's really driving it forward. So using overarching projects like climate change and ocean acidification to show chemistry standards. And then the last one is physics in the universe, as I mentioned before, using a big driving example of earthquakes, as well as a big emphasis on space science and Earth's place in the universe. And with the change to NGSS comes a big shift. I've heard testing talked about a lot at this meeting in the way that students will be tested on science. No longer is it going to be a multiple choice test. In fact, we're still waiting on some of the details for what it'll be like. But the pilot at least has been mostly short answer, very open-ended questions, and has a lot of application of science, not what they can memorize. And this is doable even though they will have 4 chunks of science that they'll be responsible for with this 3-course model if we have earth science sort of driving the rest of the content.
Hi, my name is Todd Bollocky. I'm a science teacher from Northgate High School, and I've had the privilege of being on this committee since 2014 when it was started. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the transition timeline that we're going to be doing for bringing everything in. As Dylan just mentioned about the testing, that's going to start. Right now it's in a field test this year, and next year it's going to start. It's going to be active. And so we really are, we're set up where we want to be. So the first year, next year, we're going to bring in we recommend to bring in the Living Earth. And then kind of keep it as this is a living planet. It's going to change as we go along. We realize that. We don't have all the answers right now, but we have this plan that going forward that's going to set us up for success. The next year after that, we'll bring in chemistry, and then the following year, we'll bring in physics. Within that timeline, a lot of the questions that we still have are going to be answered, and we're moving forward. Changes are coming. You know, when in 2013, when the state passed all this stuff, I wanted to be a part of that conversation. We all wanted to be a part of that conversation. I think Dr. Meyer mentioned about budget, about being a part of the conversation. That's what we want. We want to be ahead of the wave that's coming, where we can still make some choices and we can still make some direction moves, rather than being caught up in the wave when it catches us. So we really recommend there's a bunch of stuff in that plan that we gave you. And just kind of read it over, take the information in, and we appreciate all you guys do. So thanks. Questions?
I have one question. So the way you just described it, like next year you would just start with the freshman class, the Living Earth, and then the next year you'd have the second, and then the next year you'd have the third?
Correct.
Okay, so it'd go biology, basically they'd have that, and then next year it'd be the physics, and then the next, or chemistry, and then the next year.
Yeah, each year we would add on.
I have a couple of questions. All of you are excited about it. You've been on the committee for a few years, participating and brainstorming and creating. How is this being carried back to the science teachers at your sites and, you know, the communication and their involvement in this? I'm just curious because you're the representatives, and how's that getting out to the school sites and the other science teachers? Or what's the plan there?
So in the committee, every single high school is represented on the committee. So every single high school has access to that. And it's really been a matter of individuals going back and talking during the department meetings and telling them what's going on. Is there more work that's needed? Absolutely. Is everyone on board? We don't know. You know, because it's a place where we're going, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a valid concern that you bring up.
Well, because change is a process, and sometimes, you know, you have a few people who are really excited, and it's a trickle-down effect, and you don't want to wait years to gain that enthusiasm. So I can see Dylan has something to add.
Okay, so just to touch on that, this has been a very open process since all schools were part of the decision-making that at College Park we've been communicating updates after every transition team meeting, after every update on NGSS, after every decision that we've made. We've communicated it instantly with our departments. So they might not be as aware of the details, but there's a large consensus about moving forward with the plan that we've submitted.
And the committee's still open for anyone to join.
Right. Well, and the field testing, is that just going to be some of the teachers testing?
So the field test is for the exam.
Right.
I don't know why California decided this, but it's all seniors that are testing for science. I don't know. It's every single senior, and they already took their science test as sophomores, but that's not my soapbox.
That's the law. That's the state of California for you.
Fall or spring.
No. I just checked the website.
Anyway, could be now.
I'm shaking my head, no, bad idea, no, it's not happening.
Right. So there's some flexibility as far as we can tell when we want to test our students, and we would recommend either junior year or upon completion of their third science class.
Wouldn't that make more sense to test
Yeah.
them on what they're actually
Yes.
supposed to be learning? I mean, that's the whole point. So that's good to keep on top of that. Would it be just some classes then, or some, or all? Say, for example, you did juniors, would it be all juniors at a high school?
Yeah, that's the way I understood it when I read that. Read literature on that. It's all one grade level.
Okay. And then another follow-up question on that is, because change is a process and getting people comfortable with this takes a little bit of time, what's the professional development or support in sort of a longer term fashion?
So the plan is to, we have two things going on now. We have to continue with the steering committee and start writing the curriculum for the fall semester. In addition to that, we need to provide professional development for the teachers so they know what teaching looks like in the classroom, what NGSS looks like in the classroom. So we're going to provide PD for that as well during this next semester. We also need to make sure our principals are on board and understand what NGSS and what it looks like as well. So there'll be professional development for them as well. So that's the plan right now in regards to PD for our staffs at our schools.
Now, who leads that professional development? We have experts here, don't we?
We do, yeah. Jan would probably be a huge part of that, but we do have a facilitator, Arthur
Beauchamp from UC.
Arthur Beauchamp from UC Davis. He's been an instructor at UC Davis. He taught high school science for 20 years, was it? Something like that. So he is well respected in the field of NGSS.
So are you gonna bring all the science teachers together for trainings or individual sites? I'm just
I'm gonna
curious.
interrupt my boss.
Because the
Because
support is important.
What we've done over the past 3 years is we have had professional developments where we brought all the science teachers together once or twice a year, and we brought in experts. We brought in the people who wrote that framework that you saw, who are professors from Cal State Northridge. We've brought in quite a few people. Like we've had at least 6, all those full release days. We've brought in experts and teachers, and we've done a ton with teachers to get them familiar with this. We've surveyed them. We've voted. We've done a lot of equity around here's the NGSS. We have no choice, truthfully. The NGSS we have to change, and we had a few choices. So we did a vote. So it's not just the steering committee, but the steering committee was open to anyone. These are the people who decided they really wanted to stick with it. So what we are doing, Arthur's been great. He's going to meet with our principals this week, and we're building a 3-year plan. He's going to help me do that so that we can move forward. We've got so many moving pieces, but PD is huge, and we need our earth science teachers to bring in the earth science for our chemistry. So we're fairly organized, but we wanted the board to, we want your support to know what we're doing and how much work teachers are putting into it. It'll be great for kids, but this is gigantic. I mean, the universities are shifting. They're teaching to the NGSS. UC may be requiring 3 years of science from all kids, which most of our kids do. So we're trying to be organized. Mike's been incredible. It's like I told him, we have all the pieces. We just were missing the push to get us to know what to do. So I think that we're really close, and we're leading our county. We're doing a good job. So I know you don't know all this, but I'm really proud of our teachers. They are working so hard, and this is huge what we're asking them to do.
It is
so
huge. That's why I'm
it's
asking
huge, and
about
they're not.
professional
They're pretty
development and
happy.
support.
Yeah, and we will have professional development for them continuously for all teachers. We have the excited folks, but it's the ones who aren't so excited that we need to really help. But
So do we have teachers who will take, because this is always my interest, is that we have so many competent, qualified people within our district. It's great to get the outside expertise to kind of jumpstart it, but is the plan to develop
Teacher
our
leaders, yes.
own
Yes.
teacher leaders?
Yes.
Because we have them.
We do have them, and we use them all the time. We just haven't known what to do.
Right.
So we've got a great team. We'll be doing our own PDs, but it's been nice to have a facilitator just to norm us and help us.
Because some of what I've heard from some science teachers I've talked with over time is around to the content area itself, because science is not unlike, I've taught high school English, but it's a specialty, and so people get a little tense when they have to do kind of not a survey course, but a multiple science subject course.
Yes.
And so you may have specialized in one particular area of science, and now you have to sort of broaden it. It's not that you don't know it, it's just you don't
and it
specialize
changes.
it.
So that's where we're
So that's some of the support that goes on. And then if I could just ask one more question, which is around the next generation science have these, several pronged curriculum courses. What happens if students is there going to be something still specializing in the science field for older students as they go? This is in part to generate, to me, kind of a survey course to get kids interested in science and to see all aspects of it. And it's a wonderful idea to be introduced to that instead of one big old dose of chemistry sometimes, to get them excited. And I hear the investigation, experimentation pieces and the real world application. So I hear all that exciting stuff in there. And then what if students want to go on and specialize a little bit more before college or the rest of their life?
So the plan is designed so that there's some consistency throughout the high schools. Kids are getting the same curriculum, but we still want to allow for some flexibility, and individuality at the schools. So after their sophomore year, they can choose to take an AP course, honors course, whatever it may be. They still have the flexibility to branch out into whatever other kind of sciences they want to study. So yeah, we left that open. We wanted
They can take AP physics or AP chemistry and still have a specialty subject that the college is recognized for their.
Yes, that is not going away. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But if they, do they still have to take physics in the universe if they're choosing an AP course in their junior or senior year?
No, they do not.
Okay, so the third year, they can.
They can take AP physics. If
They can
want.
take, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
I think we have one more question or comment.
Well, I was just wanting to say, the parent of my eldest is in 7th grade and has a love of science. And for him, when science comes alive is when it's relatable to the real world. And I have a huge appreciation for the efforts you've made. And I reflect back on my own high school science career and what you're doing. I think it really just brings it to life, and that's very exciting. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the implementation of this new curriculum.
Thank you.
Yeah, by the way, before you all go, thank you for your several years of hard work, but more importantly, thank you for your eyes lighting up over science. It's so nice to see. Thank you. That's contagious.
And I also want to invite you to join us at steering committees whenever you feel the need to. We'll give you guys a schedule, so they're open to everybody. So.
Thank you. Mrs. Science?
Okay, takes us to 14.0, our consent agenda. Items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved or adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Is there any desire to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Point of clarification, 14.11 was pulled by staff.
Thank you.
And I was looking at 1419. I just want to share with the rest of the board because I had a question about how many boilers did we still have left in the district, because there's the assumption, because we did all the HVAC systems throughout the district for classrooms. We have 30 boilers still available at various school sites across the district, and those are used for heating rooms that don't have air conditioning. For example, the multi-use rooms, other classroom situations.
And thank you for asking that question, because I was unaware that we had 30, including 2 at some big high schools.
Right.
I'm sorry, is that item being pulled or those?
No, I was just giving you information so I didn't have to pull it.
I appreciate it.
So, nobody pointed?
Madam President, I move that the board approve the consent agenda item with 14.11 pulled by staff, and I recommend it.
Second. I defer to Mrs.
Oh. And that passes 5-0. Okay, Ms. Hanson, do we have any cards for communications of district organizations? Okay. Okay, so we are now on business 18.1, Mount Diablo Unified School District Independent Audit Report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017, submitted by Nigro and Nigro PC.
Yes, I would like to introduce our auditor, who will give us a brief presentation. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Jeff Nigro with Nigro, the district's audit firm. And I just want to walk you briefly through the audit process, tell you what it is, what you need to know. First of all, actually before I even start, I wanted to thank Nancy Juner and her whole accounting staff for putting up with us for the amount of time we're out here. You know, other folks can ensure that it's not just the accounting folks that get the audit now. We do a lot of work in the ed services and personnel areas as well. So the audit process begins in the early part of the year. In fact, we're already planning our 17-18 audits. In fact, we've already started some. There's a lot of work that goes into planning the audit before we ever set foot in the district, and it goes on throughout the year. Site visits out to some of the schools, visits here to the district office before the books are closed. It's a culmination of several hundreds of hours of work, and it boils down to this final report. So what does it all mean? You know, the word audit tends to conjure up negative images. People hear the word audit and they think of people coming with handcuffs and kicking down doors and carting away boxes of shredded documents. And I'm sure there are audits like that, but ours is not like that, unfortunately. It's not that glamorous. What it really is us giving an independent opinion of your financial statements. Are they in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles? Yeah. And in our audit report, we're giving the district an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. That's the highest level of audit opinion you can receive, that the financial statements are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So when you receive those unaudited actual financials in September, that's the ones we come in, we audit, we put them into GAAP format and give our opinion. Now, that's our opinion letter. It takes us 2 pages to say that, but that's what it is. There's a section that right after the opinion called Management's Discussion and Analysis. And I like to refer people to this section of the report because if you're not a numbers person, you just want the big picture, this is a great section to read through because it's an executive summary of the audit. It walks you through the financials from a big picture perspective. How did we do compared to the previous year? What are some of the factors that might change in the future? Things like that. So I'd recommend taking a quick glance through that. If you are a numbers person, you really want to get into the numbers, they start on page 13. And I'm not going to go through each one, but essentially all these different financial statements present different perspectives of the district's finances from a district-wide view all the way down to an individual major fund view. And then there's notes to the financial statements, which go into even greater detail. If you really want to dig down into the numbers and know the details, it's all in there. And there's pages and pages that talk about governmental accounting rules and fun stuff like that. One thing that is majorly different this year that I did want to point out is that the district elected to implement a new accounting standard this year, last year now, GASB 75, which is required to be implemented for government agencies that offer retiree health care benefits, which almost all school districts do, as well as city and county governments, state governments. And so the way we account for that now is on an actuarial basis. It's always been on a sort of an actuarial basis, but now they use different parameters, different assumptions, and so they come up with a calculation which comes up with a liability, which you then have to book in your financial statements. And it tends to be a rather large number. So it tends to make your government-wide statements look worse because you have this huge expense now, this huge liability on the books. It's a liability that's always been there. It's just now that it's being reported differently than it was in the past. So it's that's a big change in your audit this year if you're comparing to last year. There's some other information in the report. I'm not going to go through all the schedules, but there's schedules in here that are required by GASB and by the State Controller's Office. They're the agency up in Sacramento that receives and approves your audit report. So we report those schedules in the format that they want. And then there's some letters in here which talk about standards that we followed. And following government auditing standards, we follow the state's K-12 audit guide, which requires us to audit various different state programs. And that's where we get into some of the less traditional accounting stuff. And then we also followed the OMB compliance supplement in auditing certain federal programs. And what those letters essentially say is that if we found any areas where the district was out of compliance with any of the federal or state issues, or if there were any weaknesses in internal control, checks and balances, that we would report them to you as audit findings in the report, which takes you to the last section of the report, which for many people is the first section they go to, the findings and question costs. And when we go through these, I'm not going to touch on each one individually. You can ask questions, but we see that there is one finding related to student body funds. And as I like to say, our firm audits about 50 school districts a year. And the only districts that don't have ASB findings in their audit are those districts that don't have ASBs in their district. So it's nothing unusual there. But you know, there's a lot of money going through school accounts, and there's a lot of different people handling that money. There's bound to be some issues. I am pleased to say that there were many improvements noted over the past years, and especially This is our 4th year reporting on the district. We've seen great improvements over the course of that time. There's a couple of issues related to accounting for capital assets and in the cafeteria fund over food service funds. These have all been discussed with management at the time we were out in the field. So they're taking action on those. And then finally, there was a state compliance issue related to the after-school program. No financial impact on that one. So it was just simply a compliance matter. No federal findings. And that's really all I have to report. Trying to keep it as brief as possible, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
My understanding on that, the after-school compliance, so it wasn't an issue only because they underreported. Had they over-reported, it could have been an issue, correct?
Oh, well, yes, if you over-report the program activity, then yeah, the state wants something like that. Go figure.
Accountability, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I know. I like your attitude. Enjoy it. But I am happy. Every year, I think on the audit, I say something about student body funds. So what you just said was really good to hear. That the only ones who don't have that sort of flag are the ones who don't have student body money. But I would still be curious, not from you, but from our staff, in terms of the other thing I always hammer on is, as a former principal, how the work's still being done with site administrators for their awareness of monitoring and working with their student body accounts. So that's just not for you, but maybe later, because I'm glad to hear that it's improved and we've made some strides, because normally we kind of get slapped a little bit. So I'd be curious if that's relating to anything with principal, and it's not just here, it could be anywhere, at any of the sites.
And I can say that these comments were generated from our site visits from last spring. And I know since that time, they have had an internal auditor work up a ASB procedures manual. They had us review it and go through it to see if there was anything we wanted to add. And they did do some in-house training as well. So that's what I know about.
You just answered. We had someone ready to say those two things.
Well,
But it's nice to hear from someone new.
Yes. Well, I also like to just showcase the work's being done too, and I appreciate that very much.
But we are very proud of the handbook that was created, because then it will sustain, not just the training, one-time training, but with the handbook there's a reference guide.
Right. So that's good. We've come a long way. Ms. Mayo, you got questions?
Well, it's not just a question, but it is a request that I shared with Mrs. Ramos. On page 38, item D discusses long-term debt, and it mentions our Mello-Roos, which was the Measure A that passed in 1989. And there isn't any additional finance detail about the Mello-Roos Measure A, and we're starting to expend more funds and talk about Measure A again. And so I've requested that we have a little more information as appropriate in this section, so that we can point to it to our public who say, well, it's on my tax bill, but how do I know what's happening? And this gives us one more point to indicate we are sharing information with our public. This is easier to go to for me than our budget books. And the budget books and the interim reports are, it constantly changes, where this is points to a time certain where information is available. So.
And as a staff, we can certainly bring more information to all of you regarding Measure A, and we can certainly do that in addition to the audit.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you for
Thank you very much.
for all this meeting to get
Well, I
through.
learned a lot about science tonight. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and that takes us to 18.
I have a speaker card in there.
18.2.
On the next one.
No, that one too, 18.1.
Okay, well, come on up.
Need to accept the audit report.
Oh.
Form of motion, sir.
Well, we'll take our public comment and we'll accept it.
Hope you ain't trying to hide the card.
I found it, sir.
Okay. To the board, I was listening to the report and I have to commend the auditor, he did a pretty good job. Also, he was somewhat, nice about the report. But let me set the record straight.
Okay.
What I read, and so what I read, in terms of, I'm just looking at the student body funds. You have a major issue with student body funds. The auditor didn't tell you that. You have problems. Now, if those problems have not been corrected, then you're not in compliance and you were out of compliance in the first place. At Concord High School, according to the auditor, at Concord High School, we know that the student body funds do not turn in supporting and documentation for cash collected at any event. During our interview with the student body treasurer, we also discovered that the safe has occasionally been left open, unsupervised, with cash exposed. That is insane. So this is not a little nice report here. At Mount Diablo High School, we noted that the deposits are not made in a timely manner. During our interview with the student body bookkeeper, we discovered that the school has a policy of making deposits once per month, or when cash is on hand greater than $1,000. At Initial Valley, there's a chain of custody of cash receipts that take place hours after. Once an event is done, a student or advisor may take the cash home overnight. There is no record of who has the cash, and in no way holding anyone accountable for cash that goes missing. The recommendations, I hope you board members read the recommendations. They come on page 75 and 76. That's what I look at anytime I look at these audit reports. Look at what they found. And so, they recommend that you remove the bookkeeper as a signer. I hope that has taken place. And if it's not, then you're just dismissing what the recommendations are. We also recommend that sites retain the original unaltered receipts or invoices with purchases or reimbursements. Now that tells me that maybe some receipts are being altered and given to you. We also recommend that after verifying contents received, that an okay to pay or receive marking be retained or something indicated. So they make a lot of recommendations here. I know I'm running out of time, but I'll read one more. We recommend that deposits be made on a weekly basis or as often as needed. Money should never be left over weekends or holidays. We recommend that any revenue earned after hours be locked in a safe or other secure facility so that it can be brought to the bookkeeper the next morning. Lastly, the district was, and this is the capital asset accounting that the auditor somewhat dismissed, but he states that the district was unable to provide supporting schedules for capital assets acquired prior to 2013, 2014. And that's serious. So this report is not as glowing as as the auditor wants you to believe.
I think he knows we have it, we've read it. He didn't feel like he needed to go over.
I was concerned.
And I will let you know that since I've been on the board, each year we've done things to address the student body accounts. We will continue to do that and continue to improve until we get it right. And as you heard him say, anytime you're going to have kids and parents handling money at different school events, it gets a little messy, and we'll just continue to do our best.
I was just concerned about how the auditor presented this information. This is serious stuff here.
We don't disagree.
Well, I hope that you take the findings and make sure that the staff puts them in place.
We're just seeing it for the first time like you, Mr. Mims. Okay, now do we have a motion to accept the audit? Randy?
Madam President, I move that the board accept the independent audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017.
Is there a second? Second. All righty.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have the Williams quarterly report. Mr. Mims, do you want to speak now?
No, I'd like to hear the report.
Okay.
You know that.
Okay. What you have before you is the Williams Quarterly Report. This is the report for the months of October through December of last year. As I know you are aware, the Williams Act looks at the proficiency of textbook materials, teacher vacancies or misassignments, as well as facility conditions. I am pleased to bring before you that we had no outstanding complaints in these areas. And attached, you will see the quarterly uniform complaint form signed off by respective department leads, and that there were no outstanding complaints in any of these areas.
Okay, Mr. Mims.
So you had no complaints dealing with any of your schools. I think you have more than 50 schools in this district. So none dealt with any facilities or textbooks. So everything is in order. All the classrooms are in order. Everybody has textbooks. And you expect me to believe that. I don't. But let me set the record straight. You're not the only one who come here, who report out all the districts do the same thing that I covered, who claim that there was no Williams complaints. The problem that I have is that perhaps these educators who are in these classrooms don't know what the law is. They need to read the Williams complaint. Or perhaps these educators are afraid to file complaints of out of compliance, especially when it comes to facilities. I was here last year when one of the educators got up here and was talking about when it was raining, water was coming in the classroom. And so no one filed a complaint. I wonder why. I mean, it's too bad. I was trying to get a hold, because I wanted to go to that classroom myself so I could file my own complaint and hear somebody say that there was no complaints filed. But anyway, I'm concerned about this continuation of these reports with nobody filed. There's no complaints at all. Everything is in order. Everybody has textbooks, no classrooms are messed up, everything. So I'm just concerned about this continuation of this fallacy.
Thank you.
Mr. Mims, I will share with you that when I do classroom visits, I look for the information to be posted on the classroom walls about the Williams Act, and I can verify that the information is there for students, for faculty members, and or visiting parents and community members to see it. Now, whether we look at that and understand that we should take the time to fill out the form, I do agree with you that we know that there are situations that need to be corrected, and we just have to work on it. I don't know whether board members should fill out complaint forms, but I don't think that would be appropriate. So, thank you. I do appreciate your comments, though.
Thank you.
It is amazing.
Okay. So we will vote to accept the Williams report or not.
I move that the board approve the ratification of the Williams Quarterly Summary Report of December 31st, 2017.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. And that passes 5-0. Okay. So next we have, for information, the revision of board policy 6020 for parent involvement. Any board comments, questions, or input on that item?
Board president is also for action, if desired.
Why don't people call that?
Now who's hiding cards?
Yeah.
Mr. Mims, would you
Yes.
like to speak on this?
Yes, ma'am. One of the things I wanted to make sure that when you have a policy on parental involvement, is there any report given to this board regarding whether or not that policy has been effective or not? The other thing I wanted to, there's a lot of deletions here, and I mean, I was not at is this the first time this has been brought to this board? This change here.
Yes.
So it's an information and an action at the same time
If we
without any
choose.
review?
If we choose.
Well, it's somewhat, I mean, if it's come for you the first time, it should not be an information and an action at the same time because, you may want some changes here. This is the first time you're looking at it. It's the first time I'm looking at it. So I'm just concerned about all of these deletions. One thing stands out is, I could be seven. It's under, it says when the superintendent or a designee shall consult with parents, guardians of participating students on the planning and implementation of the parent involvement programs, activities, regulations. So that's been deleted, and I can't tell you because I activated something on my tablet. If I put my finger on, I'm drawing red lines all through it.
Well, they just.
Can you clarify what you're looking at? Because what I was looking at is something that added.
Okay, look under, if you find, I can't move much, but if you find the paragraph that's separated too, it says CF 3100 budget. Right there, the rule statement.
It's a paper copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. It's under Title I program.
So page 3, Title 1.
Yes. Second paragraph. So why is that deleted? Because it's asking the original version deals with the superintendent being a part and including the parent in implementation and planning of the programs and regulations. So, but it's been deleted.
Well, they deleted part of it, but now it reads the superintendent or designee shall. They deleted a bunch and added involve parents, guardians, and family members of participating students in decisions regarding how the district's Title I funds will be allotted. So they just changed the language, but it means the same.
And it's the combination of two paragraphs into one paragraph.
Strike out makes it look like it's.
So combination.
You have to go all,
You have to see
go
the
all the way
paragraph
through
above.
the cross out and go down to the last part of that, the next paragraph, and it's all one. You have to visualize it being all written together.
But,
So this
okay,
gets
so,
crossed out, but then it continues here and it restates it.
okay. So now you understand one of my problems is that when you do, so this is a draft, and so when you're deleting and combining, so the second part should be whole. So second part should not have any deletions or anything else on it. So the changing, you see the changes here, and so you should put it all together without all the. Because I'm confused because I was going to ask you, Mr. Mason, where were you reading that? I know I got it now. I mean,
yes.
So anyway, that's one of my problems. So this is your first draft, and you're about to prove a draft, but it's not a whole. So you need to see the final version before you approve it.
Yeah, I think we have gotten used to how if there's some integrity in showing what's being eliminated, crossed out. So you have to leave that where it was and show it's being eliminated and then what's added. So I think most of us are just used to, we understand how that works. And I realize maybe for the public, it's not as clear.
It's
and we need
not.
to work on it.
Well, his time is up here. I'm going to go on with board comment here. Point of order here because I want to I'm channeling Mr. Mims or he's channeling me, unfortunately. But what I want to build off of now that it's board time.
Wait, isn't it, I mean, I
Is,
think Mr.
let me
Mason should
just,
tell me what
well,
to do here.
I'm asking point of order.
Let me finish my last comment before you interrupted me on my own business.
She has to rule
Anyway,
on that.
Okay, so I know, I just want to say.
Finish your
that.
comment so we can move on. Go ahead.
I'm saying this is a rough draft, and so you can't vote on a rough draft at all. You should vote on a final version. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Now, let me finish my comment, which is, Mr. Mims is channeling me. And he's repeating what exactly I'm going to say.
Oh.
And that's why I'm trying to get that in there, Mr.
Okay,
Mims.
he's repeating what I'm going to say.
Yes, because we're on this wavelength. I am so with Mr. Mims on this, that what I was going to say before he ran up here with a comment card is I'm not comfortable with how this proceeds now. It's now become info action, and I love to speed things up and move it along. But I am so disinterested in taking action on a board policy the same night that it's presented with a bunch of strikeouts through it. I'm with Mr. Mims on this because what we need to show the public is a clean version of it. To show the public something all with strikeouts is called a draft. And to vote on that makes no sense to me at all. So I don't know at what point it became info action, but I would ask that we not take action on these when there's have strikeouts like that. I mean, entire sections underlined, added. I think the board and the public both need to see the final version, and the board needs to understand exactly what we're voting on. So I hate bureaucracy. I love to speed it up, but I'd say we slow down and go back to splitting this when it's this many strikeouts too. And it's great work. I mean, it's not that they're terrible things happening, but I think the public deserves to see it as we're going to vote on it, and the board does as well. So I'm not going to vote to support this if someone makes a motion, because I think we need to divide it.
So can I ask, I'm sorry, as a kind of because this goes on a lot, where more policies being changed. So are we saying, or are you suggesting that we first see it with the strikeouts and the addition? Because I think it's important to see. I don't want to have to go back and dig out the old policy and say, what, do a side by side. I want to see what's being eliminated and added in one document. I'm fine with that process, but I do think it's important in terms of the public's view of it. So, so we're saying we would first see it for information with strikeouts and additions, just like this one is, and then have it come back the next time, the clean version.
So,
good. Go ahead.
And I think for me, 2 weeks ago when we looked at the student transfer policy, that this was abundantly clear. And a single PDF, I don't think fully captures it. And PDFs are you can't see revision history other than through strikeout. So it's not like a Word document where you could see what's been. So at the very least, I would like to see us propose them as information at the first meeting. And I would request, unless someone has a better suggestion, I would request 2 versions of the document. One that looks exactly like this, and then the second one, which would be a finalized version, so we could read what the document would look like. So we could see one that has the strikeouts and the changes, and then the second one would be the proposed document. But I would like to see us have that first, and then at the following board meeting, if there's comment from the board or for the public, then we can make changes and vote at a second board meeting. I think, although that does, like Ms. Hanson, I am not a fan of bureaucracy and slowing things down, but I think that would make a cleaner process and one that the public could be more involved in.
Well, I actually think it speeds things up to do it that way, because then we know this night we're looking at it, we're thinking about it, and we're not sitting here trying to wordsmith it and drag out the meeting. We know we've got till the next meeting to give the staff a chance to address any concerns we have. So the only clarification I wanted from you, though, is you're thinking when we get it for the first night for info, you'd still like 2 separate copies, and then if there's any changes, they can address those at the next, when it comes back for a vote.
I personally would, and certainly other board members, please weigh in, but my thought would be this document lets you see everything, but then I'd like to see just visually what it's going to look like after, and so I kind of view it as the before and after, but we've done the work of showing what the strikeouts and changes are.
Ms. Mayo?
So I was prepared to vote on this tonight because I spent the time with it to understand it. And that I'm not faulting anybody else, it's just my work style. You can make a PDF of a track changes Word document, because I have done that. I do like the situations when it's presented with track changes and as it would read. So you have both documents there. Because sometimes you can pick up extra strikeouts or wordos or weird things in the document. Or those people who love commas and semicolons can take different things to task. And there have been a lot of comma and semicolon wars in my time. If the board prefers not to act on it tonight, I can support that, but I was prepared to act on it. We have done this in the past, and we need to be consistent in the future. If we are going to do a first time and a second time reading with strikeouts the first time, I still think that we need to present strikeouts and as it would read at the second time, because there are people who will come to our board meeting and haven't looked at the previous agenda item to see what happened, etc. And sometimes even board members don't have time to read the first meeting's presentation. So that would be my recommendation.
And I would concur with that, because what I'm saying is we, somewhere along the line, while some of the board policies are not that complicated, the changes aren't that intense, I think it's better practice to have 2 sessions of it and see it as we're, and the public gets to see it too as we're going to approve it. And that way we're all talking about the same document, because some of these get pretty involved in strikeouts and underlining, and it's pretty unclean. So that's what I would suggest. That's why I said if we're going to go for action on any of these, I'll be voting no on all of them, not because the policy is bad, but because I don't believe it's a good practice that we've sort of slipped into.
And I don't know that we have. To me, I thought we always got them once for info and the next time for action, and I'm hearing a consensus. That's what this board would like. So moving forward,
well, it used to not even say action. Now it says info /
So I would prefer the first time strictly info, unless somebody objects, and the second time info action. Because for that reason.
Can I just add, I think, and I'm speaking for myself, I won't speak to other board members, but I'm going to take this as a challenge to myself to make sure when it's info the first time that I really look at it and not start studying it at the second meeting to then hang it up again, because I didn't think to ask the questions ahead of time. So I think that's our responsibility as board members to do the homework.
I agree.
So for clarification, we will bring items for info and action and bring the strikeout version so you can see what has been removed from the former non-compliant policy, and then have something readable so you can have something. And then if there's something that you would want to see if you're missing, you can then go back to the other one to see if it's been covered or eliminated.
Yes.
Both times.
At both meetings.
Both times. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So, and this concludes.
All righty. So, before it comes back, was there anything anybody wanted to address? No. Okay. 18.4, revision of board policy and administrative regulations for 6145.2, athletic competition, new policies and administrative regulations for 614.5, student organization equal access 6145, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Now, before it comes back to us, was there anything any of the board members wanted to give input on?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good.
So on board policy 6145.2, which is athletic competition instruction, there is no mention of residency requirements to participate in the sports and CIF related activities. So is that required, or is that located somewhere else in the policy, or is it dealt with by inference by reference to CIF? Did I ask the question intelligently? Or you figure it out?
Use the right acronym, CIF.
Beautifully stated.
Always, I know.
The board, by its annual authorization of CIF participation, agrees to abide by all the bylaws. So it's not necessary for us to replicate the bylaws of the CIF in our board policies. So the second part of your comment is exactly the case.
So are parents given the information about or how do you provide information to parents and students about their qualification requirements?
Sure. There is a student parent handbook for athletic competition that's district-wide.
Okay.
So all parents in the district get the same information about how their student is academically and residentially eligible.
Okay, thank you. What's important for me?
Yeah. If I could just point out one thing we noticed this evening, omission or an error. It's in AR 6145.5, and it talks about that there will be no meetings held at lunchtime. If you see the strike out there, it should have been a strikeout all the way through option 2. The issue of when meetings are held is addressed in the paragraph above, so there's no need to really comment on lunch time. So we would just recommend that also be stricken. And just to give a little context, the formation of the new policies, we start with CSBA language, which is what all this is. This is just a initial, and then we go through and we delete things that we don't want. We may take option 1, we may take option 2, and so that's why there's a lot of verbiage here and all the cross-outs. But we wanted you to see all of the context.
So I will show my ignorance. All of these policies in this particular section do not mention teams by gender. And then all of a sudden in the AR 6145-2 on page 3, number 3, it refers to boys and girls teams. And I would have called them men and women's teams. So Dr. Meyer has said that we refer to them as boys and girls teams, but
Until college, boys water polo,
yes, boys
and girls, basketball,
through 12th grade.
They may look like.
I'm going to go look at some gym doors and see if they say men or
You're not hallucinating. A lot of schools call them men's and women's sports. I myself have always preferred it as a high school principal. Very respectful and elevates their status.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 18.5, revision of board policy 6171, title 1. Any input or changes for that one? Okay. So all those will be coming back to us, so if you think of something on your way home tonight, let them know sooner rather than later. And it looks like we will not need a meeting extension by the skin of our teeth. And I don't think we have any, do we have documents? I know there's one here I have to sign.
I do have one document.
And we do have a resolution, okay. So unless there's objection, we will adjourn. Thank you.
To me, that's a huge difference.